This man teaches your children in the day, so he's gonna scare the hell out of you tonight. Give it up for Sutera.
Thank you very much. Let's hear it for Rob Barrett, the guy who's over there. Very funny comedian. He MCs out here. Every once in a while, come check him out. Usually on Fridays and Sunday nights. Well, welcome to Jokers. So let's start off. Any birthdays out there? Any celebrations? Anything along those lines? We have a birthday. Yes. What's your name, young lady? Maureen. How old are you, Maureen? 21. 21. Hey, happy birthday. This is the night where you're going to be puking on the floor? Okay. All right. Well, I think we actually can, we're going to give a drink here. Rob, do we give out drinks to the birthday people? Here? Rob, help me. Anyone else? Any other things out there? Yes, sir. Birthday? Yes, how old? 31. Ah, welcome to middle age, or the beginning of it, right? I'm 37 myself, and I've been noticing that there are certain changes that happen in life. I mean, you know what I'm talking about. Like, I think, for me, middle age started when I got that prostate exam. Doctor does this thing, and I kind of turn into Jerry Lewis a little bit. And as I get used to it, all of a sudden I turn to Robert De Niro. He asked me, "So how you doing?" "You talking to me? You talking to me?" Someone's getting pulled over here. And then afterwards, I turn into Joe Pesci. I get really irritated because the doctor goes, "Well, you know what? I don't see any sign of cancer, but I know your prostate is a little swollen." "Of course it's swollen, you motherfucker. I could have told you he stuck your hand up way up my ass." All right. So much for the impressions. Anybody a Nebraska fan out there? Yeah, it's a rough year for Nebraska.
See, I'm wondering, can we have that microphone out of the shot? Can we try it? Because it's a shotgun mic.
Yeah.
Let's see. Tell me when it's out.
Still in.
Well, my name's David Sutera, and among the many things I've done in my life, I did stand-up comedy for about a year.
You ever notice that it's pretty tough to look difficult or look mean when you're drinking out of a straw? Like, you just see like some guy at a bar. He's up there. He's a tough guy. Hey man, what you doing? Yeah, you want some of this? Yeah, I think so.
I did this while I was in Omaha, Nebraska, and I was a high school teacher at the time, so I had a lot of material to draw on.
I teach biology, and one of the things that I had to deal with, I said, okay, boys and girls, today we're going to talk about insects. Does anyone know anything about insects? Girl raises her hand and says, "Mr. Sutera, isn't that when you have sex with your brother?" Yeah, she's an honor student. It's just great.
When I did my stand-up, I performed at a comedy club in Omaha called Joker's Comedy Club, and I actually got started in comedy because a friend of mine I saw him perform a few years out of high school, and I thought, well, this is kind of a fun thing to do. Probably my favorite comedian is George Carlin. Just a really good, irreverent sense of humor, very political, but just really cutting edge for the time. The 7 dirty words you can't say on television.
Hey, shit, piss, fuck, cunt, cocksucker, motherfucker, tits, fart, turd, and twat.
Yeah, I remember that. As a 7-year-old boy, I'm learning this stuff. I'm going to Catholic school, and this is what I'm reciting. Some people are reciting their ABCs. I'm reciting the 7 words you can't say on television. And, Richard Pryor is another great one. I really didn't see much of Richard Pryor's stand-up, but as an actor, a lot of his movies, especially with Gene Wilder, Silver Streak, one of my favorites, Stir Crazy, another great one, Steve Martin, another great comic. I remember the movie The Jerk as a kid. That was one of my favorites.
This paddle game. The ashtray and the paddle game, and that's all I need. And this remote control. The ashtray and the paddle game and the remote control, and that's all I need.
The best advice I would give anyone wanting to get into the stand-up business is to find a different business to get into, because it's extremely competitive. It's extremely, I'm joking, but you know, it's very hard to you know, to make an impact. But I have to say, it's one of the most fun experiences I've ever had in my life. I liken stand-up comedy to bungee cord jumping. It's sort of my form of extreme sport. And strangely enough, when I was emceeing, we would do 2 shows a night, the 8 o'clock show and the 10:15 show. And I would do the exact same material in both shows, and I would get completely different reactions. And it was usually the 8 o'clock show where I had the best responses. Now, that seems counterintuitive, because you would think that the crowd at 10:15 would be drunker and be more responsive, but you know, who knows what the deal was. But invariably, the 8 o'clock show was always better than the 10:15 show. I was one night, I was sitting at the end of the bar, and I had a really bad, bad night at the 10:15 show. But the 8 o'clock show, this was one of the first times that I realized that, and I was sitting at the end of the bar, and I was a little dejected. And the guy who was the headliner that night came up to me and he said, "Don't feel bad. Steve Martin ended up getting out of stand-up comedy because of the 10:15 show." And, you know, I'm not trying to compare myself to Steve Martin, obviously, but what you see on television is always the good stuff. But when you're in the comedy clubs, there's a lot of bombing. There's also the rules of 3, where usually things are, if you do a joke in a setup of 3s, that's something that's usually pretty good. There's also the whole idea of hard consonants. The joke was, all you have to do to get a crowd to say, to laugh, is to say kumquat, and people would laugh. Some of the things that I learned from some of the books that I've read, I took some classes when I was in Los Angeles. Judy Carter, she's a very famous comedian who runs these shops, workshops, and that was actually at the Improv down in Hollywood. And actually was able to perform there, which was another harrowing experience, but that was good. Yeah, well, it's kind of like sports, you got to get geared up. Some people, would do like little boxing moves. I didn't really get into that. As far as wardrobe is concerned, dark clothes are better, because when you sweat, when you have the lights on you, like the lights are on me right now, it gets really hot up there. I was thinking, thinking about getting back into comedy, and part of the shtick is what you wear. And what I was thinking of doing was maybe wearing like a suit instead of like casual wardrobe. I have no idea if that's going to work, but it might be a way of distinguishing myself.
But let me tell you something, folks. You can't fix stupid.
I mean, any actor, anyone who is interested in performance needs to have some sort of a headshot. I need to actually get new headshots, because my old headshot, I am cleanly shaven. And I kind of want to keep the beard, so I think I may have another set of headshots taken, so that I can have the bearded look and I can have the cleanly shaven look. So that's another thing there. As far as consuming alcohol or drugs or things like that beforehand, some comics really get into that. I found, for me, that doesn't work at all. In fact, I would probably go in the opposite direction. I'd have like a cup of coffee before I'd go up. So maybe that would make me a little more jittery. But whenever I would take a shot of whiskey, before going up, it never worked very well for me. But hey, I don't have my series. I haven't been on Comedy Central. I'm a hack, as they say. So what the hell do I know, right? A lot of comics, or a lot of people, think that comics are the best improv actors. And some of them are, but when it comes down to it, most stand-up comics are playing a particular set, a set all the time. And you kind of do the same material over and over again. And the trick is making it seem like you're doing it for the first time. One of the books that I read talked about Sammy Davis Jr., who's also another one of my favorite comics. They said they watched him do a show in Vegas. He did 2 shows a night. He did the early show, and the comic or the writer is Gene Parrott, if I'm not mistaken, had said that he was amazed at how it just seemed like Sammy Davis Jr. was able to just do this show completely off the cuff. And then he saw the next show, and Sammy Davis Jr. did the exact same thing, the exact same pauses, the exact same like little mishaps. When I started off, I tried to do some political stuff, you know, being a Bill Maher fan and Richard Pryor fan. And when I talked about the stuff that was personal to me, that seemed to work much better, you know, about my being Italian and growing up Catholic and being a high school teacher. That stuff seemed to play pretty well.
I don't think they do this because even in suburban, you know, neighborhoods, they're dressing like they're from the hood, you know, they have baggy pants, all that stuff, walking around like this, grabbing themselves, you know. Kids walk into class are like, hey, Mr. Sutera, how you doing? I'm like, you know what, you gotta come into class on time, all right? He goes, I feel you, dog. I say, no, you're feeling your own dog. That's all right.
And, you know, as with anything, the more you do it, the better you get at it. You know, there were some nights, there was one night I remember where, as I was an MC and I also was like a busboy, so I basically did whatever I could, you know, to help out. And I got paid, you know, basically minimum wage to do this. But, you know, it was a great time. It was a wonderful time. But I remember one night where I was the only comic there. And usually we had 2 MCs, but I was the only MC. So you have someone introducing the act and the MC. And I was also the host, so I was seating people, I was bussing tables, I was serving drinks, and then right before the show started, I had no time to prepare. I went up to the microphone backstage and I played the music to get people up there, and I introduced all the people, and then I said, and coming to the stage now, your MC, me, David Sutera. So I come out there, I introduce myself, I run out to the stage and I come up there and I'm just haggard. I'm thinking, oh God, how the hell am I going to get through this? And it was one of the best performances I've ever had. I think part of it because I wasn't really thinking about it, you know, and I had been working about 7 or 8 months as a comic at that point, so I felt a little comfortable about my material. You know, again, that was a night where I was killing, and well, at least for the 8 o'clock show, and then the same material I did, you know, 2.5 hours later, it bombed, and it was just it was almost like clockwork. That whole thing about the 8 o'clock show going well and the 10:15 show not doing so well. I have to say that the toughest group that I ever had to play for, it was for a group that came to see the Hypnotists. Now, my friend Doug is now a hypnotist, and he does a really good show. But the crowd that comes to a hypnotist show is a little different than the stand-up crowd, and I always found it difficult to open for the hypnotists, especially the ones that would call themselves the erotic hypnotics. You know, these were the people that would, you know, get people to hump each other, hump chairs, you know, and it was awful stuff. And in all honesty, I hate to shatter everyone's illusions about this, but the people that end up performing up there on those hypnotist shows, they're plants. They are plants. I know that they are. And it's a hard life, stand up. You know, you have the few Seinfelds, you have Ray Romanos that get their break, and they do their sitcom shows. But for the majority of comics, you know, it's you know, they're out there traveling all the different places in Dubuque or, you know, Birmingham, Alabama. You know, maybe they get a Denver, Colorado gig every once in a while. But someone like Gilbert Gottfried he's been doing comedy, probably stand up for 40 years. And as obnoxious as he may be, his voice is, he's a really good comic.
A woman goes to a gynecologist. The gynecologist examines her and goes, what a hole, what a hole. She says, you didn't have to say it twice. He goes, it was an echo.
Well, that's the thing, is that, you know, comics have their shtick, and I keep using that word over and over again, but it's their little thing, you know, whatever. It may be a voice, it may be a look.
That's your dick.
It's something that, you know, helps distinguish you from the other comics, but when it comes down to it, you have to have the material, you have to have the chops in order to really make it, no matter what you do, you dress it up. It's interesting to see what people do on stage, and, you know, the perception that that's how they are in everyday life. When in fact it's just a gag, just a little performance, and that's really what it is. So you guys are gonna help me take some pictures?
Yes, dude. Today, I got my still camera with me. We're gonna get you started, a foot back into the door, into the industry. We're gonna get you a new headshot.
Oh,
with
okay,
the,
great.
with the man beard.
With the beard. Okay. All right. Great. So we'll do this here. So, all righty. All right. Let's see.
Bless my heart, bless my soul. Didn't think I'd make it to 22 years old. There must be someone up above. Say, come on, Brittany, you got to come on now. You got to hold on. Yeah, you got to hold on.
You know, there's nothing worse than going to a restaurant where the quality is unpredictable. It only takes one or two bad experiences before a customer decides enough is enough and vows never to go there again. I can't watch this. I fucking can't watch this. Oh, God.